Vijay, yes, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so in today's session, we'll try to continue that formatter functions along with other screen elements. So first we'll go with list screen element, then I'll come back to table. So list screen element with formatter functions. So the requirement here is, so whatever data that is coming to table, the same data is coming to list here. Say suppose I want to apply condition on salary even inside list screen element. And I want to display some different icons inside this list. And I want to display different colors for this particular email ID column. So, for example, salary greater than 80,000, I want to display icon with green color image inside list screen element. Else, I want to display icon with red color image inside list screen element. Similarly, if salary greater than 80,000, I want to display icon, not only icon, I want to display info state. Info state is another property. With this property, I want to display green color value inside list screen element. Else, I want to display info state with red color value. Red color value inside list screen element. So that means for two fields, it has to be formatter functions in this case. One for icon property, another for info state property. Info state property is associated with info property. Info state property is interrelated with info property of list screen element. These two are interrelated. So info state property, whatever color you apply, that will be applied on the field with which info property is maintaining data binding. Info state property, the color value is applied on the OData field for which info property is used in data binding. Okay, so let me just write the step-by-step procedure. Step 1, and go to object view.xml file. And what you need to do is maintain data binding. Along with that, you need to attach formatter function. We have done this in table. Now today we are doing it on list screen element. So maintain data binding with OData field and attach formatter function. To standard list item. Of list screen element. That is, you can update below code for list screen element. So we are going to make changes for list screen element in terms of coding. Why? Because we have to maintain data binding with OData field and we need to attach formatter function to that. Okay, we are trying to apply on list. So go to object view. Object view contains list screen element inside icon tab filter. So here you can see list internally uses standard list item. Standard list item contains these properties: icon, info state. Info state is interrelated with info property. So info state as well as icon, I want to apply formatter functions here. So instead of displaying green color for every record, I want to display icons based on some condition. That's the reason why we have to attach formatter function. So here you can use the syntax same like what we have done on table: path colon OData field name, and use comma separator after that formatter keyword colon dot formatter. It refers to formatter.js file, and then you can attach formatter function. For example, icon double F. Similarly, for info state supports these constants here. The same constants you can return through formatter function based on condition. The same constants you can return through formatter function with the help of some conditions. So that's the reason why here also let me use the same syntax. For info state, use flower brackets, path colon OData field name. After that, use comma separator. Formatter is a keyword, colon, then dot formatter that refers to formatter file. That means formatter.js file. And then you can attach formatter function, for example, info state double F. So you can maintain data binding with OData field and you can attach formatter function. So this is common for both list and table screen elements. The same syntax is applicable: list, table, chart, microchart. For all these things, you can use the same syntax whenever you want to maintain data binding and attach formatter function. So for list, standard list item, we are using two properties with two different formatter functions. So this code you need to update in your view file. Info state and icon. Info state double F, icon double F. But here OData fields has to be used. The condition is on salary field, so let me use that. Condition is on salary field, so let us use that field in data binding. So OData field and formatter function. Right, so that is step one. Okay, step two is you need to implement formatter function in formatter.js file. Open formatter.js file and implement formatter functions. Okay, so let me copy these names. The same names must match between formatter file and view file. So go to formatter.js file, and in the last session we have added several formatter functions. Similarly, you can add comma separator, provide formatter function by using function keyword. OData field name value can be used here, and you can return condition with question mark. So this is a syntax to be followed. If you don't want to use if else, then you can use this particular syntax. So our condition is, for example, salary greater than 80,000. If the condition is true, I want to return success here. The condition is false, I want to return error. So technically we are returning green color and red color values here through formatter function. So this is applied for info state property, but the output will be reflected on info property OData field. Info property contains email ID, so the color will be reflected on email ID. Similarly, there is another formatter function, icon double F. So let me copy that name of the formatter function. So here you can return with condition, you can use question mark. You can return value 1, value 2. So condition is salary greater than 80,000. The condition is true. I want to return green color icon. So slash that icon name you can provide. Same we have applied on table as well. So here you can return red color.zip file if the condition is false. So condition is true, it returns green color.zip file. Condition is false, it returns red color.zip file. So this is conditional ternary operator syntax. It's an alternative for if-else syntax. Now let me go for step 2. This is step 2 code. Info state double F, icon double F. These are the two formatter functions we are applying on list screen element. This is on list screen element. Step 3, you can save both the files, view file and formatter file, and run the app. Okay, let me test it here. So there is a list now. Now list contains email ID with colors and icons with different icons because of condition through formatter function. So here you can see after attaching formatter function, so salary is greater than 80,000. So we are getting green color icon wherever salary is greater than 80,000. Salary less than 80,000, so we are getting red color icon here. Okay, not only that, salary greater than 80,000, we are getting email ID with green color. Salary less than 80,000, we are getting red color email ID. Less than 80,000, so it's red color here. Greater than 80,000, you can see green color email ID. So info state property will display the colors on OData field for which info property is maintaining data binding. Info property is maintaining data binding with email ID, so it is reflected on email ID. So that's how you can attach formatter function to any screen element, table, list, chart, microchart, etc. Okay, so this is the list output. After attaching formatter functions. After attaching formatter functions, you can see the difference here. Now let me go back to the table here. So in table, what we have done is we have combined first name, last name values into a full name as a single column. But in this case, we did not use formatter function. We have just used data binding with multiple fields in view file itself. First name, last name, both are used in data binding to get a single field that is full name. Without formatter function, we have done it. But I want to do it with formatter function. So in this example, you'll understand how to maintain data binding with multiple OData fields and how to refer or access multiple OData fields inside formatter functions. How to maintain data binding with multiple OData fields and how to access multiple OData fields inside formatter function. So for this, let me give one simple requirement here. For example, I want to display first name and last name. As single field. That is full name. Inside table screen element. So that's a simple requirement here. So let me write step-by-step procedure. So in this example, you will understand how to maintain data binding with multiple OData fields and how to access multiple OData fields inside formatter function. Step 1 is just open object view XML file. Go to table, cell section, table content cell section. Change input screen element. For full name, I've used input screen element. Instead of using input screen element, of course, you can use input screen element, but you have to change the coding syntax here. Change input screen element with below code. By maintaining data binding with two OData fields here. That is what we need to do. And not only that, you need to attach formatter function. So you have to change input screen element in a table in cell section by maintaining data binding with two OData fields, and you need to attach formatter function. So here you can see, let me go to table. So there is a table here. Table contains column section. Table contains items with column list item cells. So here you can see in the last session, we have used input string element, value property. It is maintaining directly data binding with two OData fields here. That is first name and last name. There is no formatter function in this case. So we have used input string element in the last session with value property for full name. It is just displaying full name by maintaining data binding with two OData fields directly here. There is no formatter function. Only two OData fields are directly used. That is one of the technique. But the alternative technique is you can use multiple OData fields in formatter function. You can attach formatter function and you can access multiple OData fields inside formatter function. Sometimes that is also useful. So that's the reason why when you want to use multiple OData fields along with formatter function, then go to value property here, change the syntax. What you need to do is just use flower brackets. For multiple OData fields in data binding, you have to use parts. Parts as a keyword. Colon. You have to use array here. Square brackets. Within that, use flower brackets. One for OData field in data binding. Another flower brackets is for the two flower brackets we are using within square brackets. One flower bracket is for OData fields in data binding. Another flower bracket is for attaching formatter function. So here I can use path colon OData field name, that is first name. Then you can use comma separator and use path colon something like another OData field. Let us use last name here. After that, you can use comma separator, then formatter keyword. Then use dot formatter, that's a formatter.js file reference. And then you can attach formatter function, that is, for example, full name double F. So that's the syntax, you have to use it. So we have to use parts, that's a keyword. Within that, use square brackets. Square brackets should have two flower brackets. And in one of the flower bracket, we are using path colon first name. In second flower bracket, we are using path colon last name. That means each OData field we are using data binding within this flower brackets here by using path keyword. And then as usual, you have to use formatter keyword. Dot formatter refers to formatter file. Full name double F is the name of the formatter function. So this is what you need to adjust inside your table cell section. Now go to formatter file and implement formatter function, that is full name double F. Very simple. Go to formatter file, add one more formatter function, full name double F, by using function keyword. And this is the most important here. Now there are two OData fields in data binding, first name field and last name OData field. So that's the reason why you can use two OData fields here. First name, comma, last name. With this approach, you can resolve most of the requirements. Now you know how to use single field in data binding with single field in formatter function. Now in this example, you know how to use multiple fields in data binding and how to refer multiple fields in formatter function. So now what we can do, we can just simply return like concatenate. You can concatenate first name plus last name and you can return. And when you're concatenating, you can use some space. So that's the reason why you can use plus operator here in this case. So we are referring first name comma last name in formatter function now. That means we are referring two OData fields in formatter function. If you use multiple OData fields in data binding, then you can use multiple OData fields in formatter function. And you can utilize those things in your conditions or calculations or whatever. Here we are just simply concatenating first name plus last name with space as a separator. Or else I think you can also use like this, first name dot concat. Something like this, concat. You can use JavaScript method here and provide last name. You can use this syntax or simply you can make it like this. First name plus some space you can generate plus last name. So the point here is multiple OData fields are referred in formatter function here. Just highlight this. OData field one value and OData field value 2. And you can utilize that in your conditions here. OData field 1 value, OData field 2 value. In this case, first name, last name, we are just adding, that means we are concatenating here and we are returning that final value as full name. So you can have n number of OData fields in data binding, then you can refer those n number of fields inside formatter function also. So access multiple OData fields in data binding, sorry, in formatter function. Access multiple OData fields in formatter function. So that's the syntax. So if you use first name field as first field in data binding, then this refers to the first OData field. Last name is the second OData field in data binding. So last name will be the second field in data binding here. So you'll get last name as second field in formatter function. It will take the same sequence. First name is first field, last name is second field. So in formatter function also, it will take first name as first field, last name as second field. The sequence of data binding is utilized here while accessing those fields in formatter functions. Okay, so let me test it. If it is working, then we can copy that code. So now you can see we are able to get the same output by referring multiple OData fields in formatter function. So it is returning first name and last name, everything single column here. So there is an input field, first name, last name is utilized here as a single column, that is full name. So it is working according to our expectation. There is no problem. Okay, so this is in this example. full name output is displayed because of multiple OData fields in data binding and multiple OData fields referred or accessed in formatter function. In this way also you can get the output. Multiple OData fields in data bindings and multiple OData fields accessed in formatter functions. Okay, this is like full name field output in table. Okay, it's working fine. So let me copy this line. According to step 1, this is the adjustment you need to make. Go to object view XML file, go to table cell section, change input screen element with below code by maintaining data binding with OData fields and attach formatter function. So that means this code has to be modified in your table screen element. Okay, step 2. Step 2 is just implement formatter functions in formatter file. Open formatter.js file. Implement formatter function. The specialty of this formatter function is we are accessing 2 OData fields inside that formatter function. Okay, so let me copy these lines. Full name formatter function is accessing 2 OData field values, last name value, first name value. And here you can apply whichever calculation you want, whichever condition you want, and you can return the final value. So in real time, it can be something like this. Here, okay, so let us go with step 3 first. Save all the files. That means view file and formatter file. Run the app. Now let me explain some syntaxes here. That 3 to 4 syntaxes that you need to remember. One is in element plus data binding. What is screen element plus data binding with OData field. Then screen element plus data binding with multiple fields, with multiple OData fields. Screen element plus data binding with OData field and formatter function. Then screen element plus data binding. Data binding with multiple OData fields plus formatter function. So these are the 4 syntaxes you need to remember. In different situations, different syntaxes will be useful. Okay, let me just highlight with red color here. Okay, so screen element plus data binding with OData field. So that we have used like this here. For example, country. For country, what we have done? Closely observe this syntax. Text is a screen element, text is a property, and we are accessing country field as OData field here. Very simple. There is no formatter function. Text screen element, text property, and we are maintaining data binding with OData field, in this case country. There is no formatter function. There is screen element with only one single OData field in data binding. That's it. Then this is a syntax you have to use. But I want to use screen element plus data binding with multiple OData fields. So earlier what we have done, we have used text screen element, text property, and we have used multiple OData fields in data binding. There is no formatter function in this case. So in this syntax, we are using text screen element, text property, and we are using multiple OData fields, that is first name field and last name field. Multiple OData fields are referred in data binding, then you have to follow this syntax. In this case also, there is no formatter function. Just multiple OData fields are referred in data binding. Then this is a syntax you have to follow. Now I want to use screen element data binding with single OData field and formatter function. So here in one of the example we have used it. For example, status double F or image double F, whatever. Let me take this. So in this case, we are using image screen element and its property. But the most important is path with salary. That means we are using OData field in data binding and we are attaching formatter function by using formatter keyword. Path is for data binding. Formatter keyword is to attach formatter function, in this case image double F. So in this example, screen element is used, data binding with single OData field is used along with formatter function. Then this is a syntax you have to follow. Path colon OData field, formatter colon dot formatter function name. This is a syntax you have to use. Single OData field along with formatter function. Now I want to use multiple OData fields along with formatter function. Multiple OData fields in data binding along with formatter functions. Then you can use this latest one. And this type of syntax is useful. Let me remove width. Width is not important. If you want, you can use it. Input screen element, value property, parts is a keyword. Within that, you have to use two sections if you want to use two OData fields. Path colon first OData field, path colon second OData field. And formatter function by using formatter keyword. Dot formatter refers to file name. Full name double F is the name of the formatter. So this is the latest syntax we have used to understand multiple OData fields in data binding along with formatter function. So this is one of the syntax. This is another syntax here. And there's a third type of syntax. Then there's a fourth syntax here. And don't forget here, this path is a keyword. Path is a keyword. Formatter is also a keyword. Dot formatter refers to file name, and this is the name of the formatter function. Let me add those basic things. Keyword to maintain data binding. When you are attaching formatter function, use another keyword, that is formatter keyword. And dot formatter is a file name, formatter.js file. After that, we are attaching formatter name, formatter function name. And here, salary is a OData field used in data binding. Let me add that as well. Salary is a field used in data binding. That's a OData field. So path is a keyword to establish data binding with OData field. When you are attaching formatter function, use formatter keyword. Dot formatter refers to file name. Image FF in this case is the name of the formatter function. The next syntax, what we have done, we have used multiple OData fields along with formatter function. Then we have to use another keyword, that is parts. Within that parts, you have to use path with OData field name in flower brackets. The first OData field. Then the second OData field in data binding. Second OData field in data binding. And then there is a formatter keyword with formatter function. This is as usual, normal. Okay, let me add this. So this again, parts. Parts is the keyword that is required when you are maintaining data binding with multiple OData fields. Data binding with OData field 1. Then data binding with OData field 2. Let us use like this: data binding, OData field 1, data binding, OData field 2. Then formatter is a keyword. Dot formatter refers to formatter.js file, because that's the actual file in which we are going to implement formatter function. And this is the name of the formatter function, last one. So you should be comfortable with these 4 syntaxes, then you can achieve many more requirements with these things. It can be on list or table, chart or microchart. This type of syntaxes are common. In different situations, we use different syntaxes. So let me make it syntaxes here. Okay, so this is view file and this is formatter file. Now let me go to the next concept, that is like microchart here. Microcharts. Microcharts are used to display data in simple graphical format. Microcharts will allow you to display data in simple graphical format. If you want a complex graphical format, then we have to go for normal charts. That will be discussed in the coming days, not now. Today we'll go with just microcharts, not charts. Charts are different, microcharts are different. So we are focusing today on microcharts. In the coming days, we'll focus on charts. So microcharts will display data in simple graphical format here. Simple graphical format. So there are different types of microcharts here. different types of microcharts. Let me write those things. One is comparison microchart, column microchart, bullet microchart, radial microchart, and area microchart, etc. Whatever it may be, the same syntax is applicable. Whatever may be the microchart, the same syntax you can use it. So there are different types of microcharts. One is comparison microchart, column microchart, bullet microchart, radial microchart, then area microchart here. All these microcharts related classes, they are part of SAP Suite UI microchart library. All the microcharts related classes are part of, they're available in SAP Suite UI microchart library. Library name should be always in lowercase. So whatever charts, that means whatever microcharts we have written here, all those microcharts, they are basically associated with different classes, and those classes related to microcharts are part of SAP Suite UI microchart library. So here you can see we have already registered that library. You can use it now straight away. At a view level, we have used namespace or a prefix as microchart here for registering this library, SAP Suite UI microchart library. SAP Suite UI microchart library. So that library contains different types of classes. That is comparison microchart. That's one of the class. And it internally contains an internal screen element as microchart data. Comparison microchart is one screen element, and it internally uses comparison microchart data as internal screen element. So that both the classes belongs to the same library. Similarly, column microchart is one of the class. Column microchart data. Column microchart data is another class. One is main screen element, another is internal screen element. Similarly, for example, bullet microchart, and it contains one internal screen element as bullet microchart data. One is main screen element, another is internal screen element. But all those are classes. They're part of the same library, SAP Suite UI microchart library. Similarly, area microchart, and it contains area microchart data here. That's another class. Radial microchart. Radial microchart data, that's another class. One is main screen element, another is internal screen element. But all these are classes. They belong to this library, SAP Suite UI microchart library. SAP Suite UI microchart library contains classes related to microcharts. For microcharts, there will be two classes here, microchart and microchart data. But all these classes belongs to basically same library. So it's already, the library is registered So you can directly use those classes from this library. Classes related to microcharts. These are all classes related to microcharts. So for that, the library is already registered. If it is not registered, you need to use it now. It becomes mandatory if it is not registered. The classes related to microcharts classes belongs to SAP suite UI microchart library. Microcharts classes belongs to SAP suite UI microchart library. And don't forget, we have registered with a prefix namespace as microchart. So in your further coding, you have to use that in your further coding when you want to use any of these classes. Let me save it. Now we'll go step by step procedure here. Step 1 is make sure that SAP suite UI microchart library is registered on top section of your view. SAP suite UI microchart library is registered on top section of a view. It's already available, so you can ignore this. Just for clarity purpose, I'm writing once again. So that's a library. Already available. If it's available, you can ignore this step 1. But don't forget, this is a library, actual library. It is registered with some namespace as microchart. So in your further coding, you have to use this microchart as a prefix before using its classes. Now step 2 is inside. What I've decided is I've decided to use microcharts in a separate icon tab filter. Form, list, table. These three are having 3 different icon tab filters in icon tab bar. What I want to do is I want to add a new icon tab filter in the existing icon tab bar so that I can display microchart output data. I want to display microchart output by using a separate icon tab filter in existing icon tab bar. You can add anywhere inside the form, list, or after the table, or after the list, or after form. You can add anywhere, but I want to create a separate icon tab filter here. So inside icon tab bar, add new icon tab filter with content area. Every icon tab filter, as I said earlier, it contains content area. Don't forget that. Inside icon tab bar, add new icon tab filter with content area. So let us do that. Now you can see there is, in the last session, we have used icon tab bar, that's the end tag, which contains items and icon tab filter. So what I can do is I can add one more icon tab filter. Inside icon tab bar items block, inside icon tab bar items block. Add new icon tab filter with content area. Icon tab bar can have n number of icon tab filters. So let me add that here. Just icon tab filter with separate content area. Now icon tab filter contains some text. For example, this is to display microcharts. Output. I want to display microchart output, so you can use some text as microchart. Then you can use icon color. For example, critical. That's one of the constant. And I want to use one standard icon, SAP-icon, :/. There is one standard icon. I told you how to use standard icons, how to access standard icons. In the last session, I've explained. So badge is one of the icon. World is another icon. Badge is also one of the standard icon. Let me use that. Now inside this icon tab filter content area, I want to place microchart related coding. That's it. And I want to access backend data via OData service. I want to place microchart related code. In that, I want to access backend data via OData service. So let us write that code now. Okay, let me take this as a screenshot for your reference. Here we are adding a new icon tab filter. Inside this block, this is the actual block. Within that block, we are adding a new icon tab filter. And you can place microchart related code and access backend data via OData service. Add new icon tab filter, content area. So let me save it and run at this stage. Now you can see there is fourth icon tab filter, form, list, table, and microchart. But microchart content area is empty at this level. It's empty at this level. Now I want to place microchart related code. I want to get data from backend via OData service. So this code is working. Let me copy these lines. This is to add new icon tab filter with content area inside icon tab bar items block. Now step 3. Inside content section of new icon tab bar, new icon tab filter. Inside content section of new icon tab filter, implement microchart related code. Implement microchart related code as below. Inside content section of new icon tab filter, implement microchart related code. So let me write some of those lines here. So here I want to use a namespace. Microchart is a namespace. In that, I want to use comparison microchart. Earlier, there used to be only one microchart. In the latest release, SAP has added several other microcharts like column, bullet, radial, area, but whatever it may be, the syntax will be same as comparison microchart. Okay, let me give that skeleton code. First, let me write this comparison microchart. Use begin tag, end tag. Comparison microchart, use begin tag, end tag. Whichever microchart you want, you place that begin tag, end tag here with prefix as microchart because our library is registered with that prefix. Now inside that you can use microchart data, that is for representing your aggregation property. So data is aggregation property here. Your data is aggregation property. And for this aggregation property data, you have to maintain data binding with OData field, or you have to configure entity set of OData service here. So here I'm expecting data from backend. So use the same aggregation property here and configure entity set of OData service to get data from backend. And aggregation property supports an internal screen element. The internal screen element, I want to use it here. Microchart with comparison microchart data. Use same class, but you have to append with data here. That is another class. And for this comparison microchart data, this acts as an internal screen element. Comparison microchart is a main screen element. Comparison microchart data is an internal screen element here. So comparison microchart is a main screen element. Comparison microchart data is an internal screen element. But both belongs to the same library, so use the same prefix. So comparison microchart is main screen element with data as aggregation property. By using aggregation property, we can use an internal screen element as comparison microchart data. But please remember, the same prefix is used because all these classes belongs to same library. Now for this comparison microchart data, there are some properties here. One is title is one of the property. You can maintain data binding with OData field here, field 1, something like that. And you can use another property, that is value. For value, you can maintain data binding with OData field 2 here. And there is another property, that is color, that is not suitable for data binding. It's not suitable for data binding with OData field. It's just to represent color. Suppose I want to display all values with green color, so you can use good. I want to display all values with red color, so you can use error. Good is for green color, error is for red color. Good represents green for microchart data here. Error represents red color. There is no success. It's not success error, it's good error you have to use. Okay, let me use good here, that is for green color. If you want, you can use a condition and you can attach a formatter function to return the value based on condition. If you want, you can attach formatter function, that also we are going to do it. But let me just try with a single value, that is good. The main properties are title and value. Title is for one of the OData field, value is for another OData field. So here one of the OData field I can use, for example, first name. Second OData field, I can use salary here. And both these fields are getting data from an entity set, that is EMP set, according to our OData service details. First name is one field that is for representing basically x-axis. Salary is another OData field for representing y-axis. But both the fields will fetch data from an entity set, that is EMP set. Okay, so let me run this. You can see form, list, table, and now there is a microchart here. Microchart, every value is displayed with green color here. But if you want, you can increase the size as well as width. Here, you can provide size as small is S, medium is M, large is L. I think you can use S, M, L. That is small, medium, large. So let me use M, medium, and let me provide some width. For example, 450 pixel or 400 pixel you can provide. Now let me run it. Those are normal properties. Now you can see this is much more meaningful here. So if you closely observe all the values, they are represented in green color. There is no condition. But here you can see first name, its salary, and there is a progress indicator up to 89,000 here. And then there is first name here, salary, and the value is represented in progress indicator up to here. That is a comparison microchart. So different salaries are having progress indicator up to different locations here. You can see this endpoint. This is just an indicator. It is to show the data in simple graphical format. Here we are using column microchart, comparison microchart. So the output is in this manner. Now, say suppose I want to use first name and last name here. That is possible. So you can refer multiple OData fields in data binding. Let me try. For title, let me use space and provide last name here. You can save and run. Let me check whether it works or not. Now you can see both are available here. First name, last name as part of technical x-axis in general and salary in y-axis here. You can see first name, last name, both are included and salary is here. So you can use multiple OData fields wherever required in your screen elements. In this case, first name, last name is used. If you want, you can attach formatter function. You can return value through formatter function as well. Okay, let me just stick to single field. Okay, I'm okay with this single field. And salary is a value part of this particular microchart. Now what I want to do is I want to display different values with different colors. Based on some condition, I want to display values with colors. So salary greater than 80,000, I want to display with green color. Salary less than or equal to 80,000, I want to display with red color. So here you can see there is color property. For that property, we are supplying good. So always for each record, for every record, it is displaying green color. But I want to display with different colors, so you have to attach formatter function. So you can use flower brackets, path colon, OData field name. On salary field, I want to apply condition. So refer that salary field in data binding, comma. You can use formatter keyword. Dot formatter refers to the file name, that is formatter.js file. And I want to use color double F. Microchart color double F. So color double F is a formatter function name I want to attach here. So the same type of syntax, you can use it for table, list, charts, microcharts, etc. Path colon OData field name, formatter colon dot formatter function name. This is the same syntax we have used on list as well as table. Now on microchart. Now how to implement this? Color double F you have to implement inside formatter function. So here let me add color double F function. Here salary is a field used in data binding. Now what I can do is we can use a condition. Example, salary greater than 80,000. Use question mark because it's a condition. If the condition is true, I want to return good. The condition is false, I want to return error. So that's how you can attach formatter function, and from formatter function implementation, you can return the values. In this case, we are returning color values. Okay, let me test it. If it is working, then I'll copy that code to the node file. Now you can see microchart is also displayed with colors here. Two colors we have used, green and red. And the progress indicators are also displayed properly after that. Okay, so if you closely observe this output, this is a microchart output, salary greater than 80,000. So it's green color progress indicator with green color value. Salary less than 80,000. So red color value for salary and red color progress indicator. It's a comparison microchart. So the output looks like this. This is the output of comparison microchart after attaching formatter function or color property. Now let me explain the syntax. If you want to use new type of microcharts, you need not worry, the same syntax, but only class names will change. Okay, let me copy these lines. This is for microchart. Go inside content section of new icon tab filter, implement microchart related code. This is a code. Title, value, these are the two important properties. Color is another property. Color property is not suitable for data binding. It is just to return the color. This is microchart related code. Just place that inside icon tab filter content area. That code, you have to place it. And then step 4, if you are using formatter function, then open formatter.js file. Implement formatter function. So let me copy that. The formatter function. Step 5, save all the files. That means view file and formatter file from the app. And observe the output. But let me explain the syntax for other types of microcharts. For other types of new microcharts also, you have to use the same syntax, but here the class name will change for main screen element and complex screen element. That is, for complex screen element and internal screen element, the type of classes will change. The properties remain same. Okay, so here, let me give that syntax. Let me just copy these lines. If you want, you can use formatter function. Otherwise, you can ignore this. If you want, you can ignore it. But here, comparison microchart, that's a main screen element. Comparison microchart is an internal screen element. This is a main skin element here, or a complex skin element. Comparison microchart, that's a main skin element, or you can call it as complex skin element. Data is an aggregation property. This is an entity set configuration to fetch data from backend. This is like aggregation property. And you're trying to configure entity set of OData service. Why entity set should be configured? Because it is to collect data from backend and display data in front end. Collect data from backend, display data in front end. For that, configure entity set of OData service. Then this is the internal skin element here. Comparison microchart data, that's an internal skin element. Let us make it here otherwise. This is internal skin element. And these are the two properties of that internal skin element, title and value. Title can refer to one of the OData field, value can refer to another OData field. So here we are maintaining data binding with OData field 1 and data binding with OData field 2. So this is the overall syntax you have to follow irrespective of the microchart. The same syntax is applicable. So here you can change this complex skin element name and you can change the internal skin element name. The overall syntax is same for all types of other microcharts as well. You can try this new microcharts in Business Application Studio because new plugins, new class are included in that. At that level, we can discuss that. Or you can also experiment it on your own just by changing this complex skin element name and internal skin element class name. So this, you can call it as a skeleton syntax here or skeleton code for all types of microcharts. In the coming days, we'll be discussing charts like bar chart, column chart, pie chart, waterfall chart. Those are charts. Charts are different. Microchart output looks like this, especially comparison microchart. Now let me highlight some of the important things here, like constants and its properties. So till now we have used some constants here, enum values, for various skin elements. Let me highlight those things. So for standard list item, inside list, we have used standard list item. Inside list, for standard list item, info state property, there are constants here. That means enum values. One is success, another is error, then warning. For object number, in table skin element, we have used one internal skin element as object number. For object number, we used state property. Let me write it like this otherwise. So internal skin element, property, and property supports constants or enum values. We put it like a tabular format. So one is standard list item is an intrinsic element of list. For that, it contains info state property. It supports constants like success, error, warning. Make it here itself. Similarly, there is object number intrinsic element which we have used inside a table. For that, state is a property. That state property supports these things: success, error, warning. Similarly, microcharts. Microcharts contains color property. That means microchart data, that is an intrinsic element. Can be comparison microchart, column microchart, or whatever it may be. It contains microchart data, basically as intrinsic element, which contains color property. Color property here, it supports two values, that is good as well as error. For progress indicator, in table we have used progress indicator, different colors. It contains one property. Progress indicator contains state property here for representing colors. It supports success, error, warning for progress indicator. Progress indicator with green color, red color, yellow color, something like that. For that, you have to use state property on progress indicator, which is an intrinsic element for a table. Similarly, for button, there is type property. Button contains type property. That property supports constants like accept, reject, emphasized, something like this. Green color button, red color button, blue color button. Accept, reject, emphasized. So buttons with colors is possible because of this type property. Just remember this, very commonly used in almost in all the applications, these things, different constants for different properties of different intrinsic elements. Okay, let me give one simple assignment. First, let me show that output here. Try it on your own. Let me go to my standard reference example. You can try this assignment with the help of some help documentation. Here you can see there is, okay, that is not available. Let me check. This is a reference example. Okay, you can see there is a second screen loaded with form, list, table, microchart, same like what we have done. But here on top section, you can see there is one input field. If I type something like, for example, or K, if I type something like K, then there two values are popped up here. Something like Krishna and something like Krishna without A. So you can see two values are available with starting with K here. If I type something like A, there are two values here, Aditya and Ajay. If I type V, then these are the values available here. It is showing a pop-up with list of values. So user can select a value and that value is populated here. If I type S, then these are the values. So many values here. I can select one of the value. And that selected value is populated here. If I type R, then you can see there are some values here. So try to develop this one. As soon as you type something, it has to pop up the list of values so that user can select or pick the value, and that selected value must be populated in this input field. Okay, so let me use like this, or let me take this screenshot. So here there is a field. As soon as you type something, it is trying to show list of values inside that field. The suitable values for that field are displayed here. These are the suitable values starting with R. And these are the values coming from backend through OData service. So what you need to do is, okay, input field with tabular format for such values, or input field with such values in tabular format. Let me make it like this. It's like assignment. Try this. Make it like assignment 1. Very simple. Try to check the documentation. From that you can explore and you can easily achieve that with the knowledge what we have at this point of time. So create input screen element on providing input starting letter, something like that, starting letter or first name. Display list of records or collection of records. Display collection of records in tabular format here. As a pop-up so that user can select a value. User can select first name value from that. So for more clarity, you can refer the diagram. I've already saved it, so just refer that assignment diagram. Then you'll get more clarity. There is an input field and such values as a tabular format for pop-up. Right. If you have any doubts, you can ask me now.
Yeah, I have a doubt in table syntax.
Okay. What's the doubt?
Yeah, in table, it is a first is items, that is aggregation property. Next, we are writing columns. C.
That's also aggregation property. Columns is one of the aggregation property. Items is another aggregation property. One main screen element can have multiple aggregation properties.
Okay. Then again, we are writing C column, C as capital.
Yes, right. So wherever there is a main screen element class, right? Contains uppercase. For example, table. T is uppercase, right? And internal screen element class also. Internal screen element class also contains something like we have used progress indicator as an internal screen element. So P and I is uppercase. Slider is uppercase. Input I is uppercase. then text T is uppercase. Similarly, image I is uppercase. So for main screen element class and internal screen element class, you have to use class related syntax. I think rule 2. Rule 2 I have explained in one of the XML syntax rules. Just refer the previous sessions. And wherever there is a property, or it can be aggregation property. For that, you have to use a separate rule. Property and aggregation property will have the same rule. For example, columns is an aggregation property. C is lowercase. Cells or items. Items is aggregation property. I is lowercase. Are you getting my point?
Yeah, but actually after columns there is another column, right, where C is capital, and again after that we are writing label. So both C and capital and L are capital, means both are two internal screen element.
Yes. So here table contains columns. That's a columns is aggregation property. So C is lowercase. And it internally contains, it supports column as one of the internal screen element. Column is one of the internal screen element. Are you getting my point? So this column can have begin tag, end tag. Within that, you can have another internal screen element. That is possible. So label is another internal screen element. We are not using aggregation property here. We are using an internal screen element with text property. So there can be a situation like this also.
Okay, in the second case, we have items against, then column list item. That is a internal screen element, but sales. Sales is a aggregation property.
So items is aggregation property of a table.
Yeah.
Inside that, items aggregation property supports column list item as one of the internal screen element. Column list item is an internal screen element here, basically. Column list item is an internal screen element. Okay. That internal screen element again internally has one option, that is cells. Cells is a aggregation property once again. So items is an aggregation property of table, and items aggregation property supports column list item as an internal screen element. That internal screen element can also have an aggregation property. So cells is an aggregation property of column list item here. So if you closely observe this, let me go to the documentation. SAP ui5 100.ondemand.com. Here you can see samples. Response to table or table. You can go to table or list because it's a superclass, subclass, anyhow. So there's table class. Table contains API reference. In API reference, there are some aggregation properties here. You can see columns is one of the aggregation properties. It's a direct aggregation property here. Columns. It supports column class as an internal screen element. Columns, it can be a number of columns, so 0 to n cardinality. The internal screen element is column. But what about items? Items are not displayed. Just click on this show inherited aggregations. There is a superclass subclass combination. So then select this checkbox. When you select checkbox, then you'll get other aggregation properties of a table. So here you can see items is another aggregation property. After selecting this checkbox, you're getting aggregation property from a superclass. So that is items is another aggregation property with 0 to n cardinality here. And this items aggregation property contains list item base. That is technically a superclass again. So it's a list item base. List item base, if you select it, it supports different options: column list item, standard list item, something like object list item. It has several things internally, according to the documentation.
Then where I'll find that cell as aggregation property inside column list item?
If you click on that, then you will get it. Don't worry. So here, just observe. So there's a table, aggregation property is items. It is having a list item. This is not the actual intrinsic element. It is having, this is super class technically, which internally supports many things like this internal supports several options here according to documentation. So here, this is a super class. That's a super class type, but it contains several options like has standard list item, has column list item, it has object list item, and there are several other things, some other options. So we are using one of the subclass, that is column list item for table. We are using standard list item in case of list. We are using column list item in case of table. Why? Because all these are various subclasses that are part of list item base, wherever there is items aggregation property, especially for table and list. List item base is a super class which has subclasses like standard list item, column list item, object list item. Now you can click on that column list item here. If you want, you can click on this column list item, go to API reference, then you'll find that cells has aggregation property. So here you can see, if I click list item base, if you click list item base has several subclasses here. You can see this. Let me take it separately here. List item base is having several subclasses. You just click on this view subclasses, then you'll get clarity. Let me click on view subclasses. When I click view subclasses, you can see there are several subclasses here. One is column list item. You can see that action list item and display list item, then input list item, object list item, standard list item. You can see several options here. Now, if you click on this column list item, then you will get cells as aggregation property of that. That is what you can remember. So here, go to this now. Take it separate screenshot. In table, items is supporting this particular class, but that class supports several options as subclasses. Column list item, these are important things. Display list item, then input list item, object list item, standard list item. Now you can click on one of these options. So here, let me select column list item here because we have used this inside a table. Column list item. Column list item will have some aggregation properties here. Now I am going to column list item. Column list item contains aggregation property. Now you can see cells is available. Cells is also having 0 to n cardinality, and it supports control. Control means again, it has several, it can support several intrinsic elements. Control can be input, control can be checkbox, control can be switch, control can be progress indicator, control can be radio button, or control can be switch, image, progress indicator, rating indicator, link, button. It can be any control here. But technically you can see column list item contains this one. If you select column list item, it contains cell section as an aggregation property. And this control means again, it's an intrinsic element which supports many options here. Let me add that as well. So from here, you can see this cells is aggregation property of column list item, which I've opened here already. Now this cells is having 0 to n cardinality, and it is referring to control as a internal screen element. That control can support several options according to documentation. It has several subclasses. So the control can be like image. Wherever you find in documentation, wherever you find control means screen element. It can be image screen element, slider screen element, text screen element, input screen element, or it can be button, whatever. It can be any internal screen element. It can be a checkbox, can be switch. That is how we have used in our table. Let me add this. It can be image, slider, switch, text, input, button, checkbox. It can be anything. So control is a superclass for all the screen elements. Control is a superclass. Sometimes there will be a direct class, sometimes superclass will be provided here. And these are the subclasses basically. For that control superclass, these are the subclasses. This is how you can study this. Ultimately, column list item supports cells. Column list item supports cells. Cells contains control. Control means you can have any type of internal screen element. Depending upon internal screen element, the property is decided for data binding. Just remember this. List item base is superclass. Supports column list item with cells as aggregation property. Especially for table, you will find this nature. Anyhow, you can see here, if I select control, then you can understand several subclasses here. Now you can see. There will be many things. You can see slider is one of the subclass. You can see select is another subclass. And you can see object number is another subclass. We have used it. And then several subclasses available. Link is a subclass. Label is a subclass. Image is also a subclass. So control is a superclass for almost all the screen elements in our theory. You can see here. Okay, so where in documentation, whenever you find or wherever you find control, SAP UI core.control. Control means it can support any screen element like list. That means it can be text, input, text area, text field, checkbox, switch, slider, image, link, progress indicator, rating indicator, button, select screen element. That means a drop down. It can be any screen element. Yeah, so now I think you might have got an idea. Table contains items as aggregation property. That items aggregation property supports column list item. Column list item contains cell section. In cell section, you can add whichever screen element you want. For example, it can be input here, value property, data binding. Or in one of the column, you can use text screen element, text property. You can use OData field here. It can be image. Use image, it contains SRC property. You can use that. It can be rating indicator, anything like this, or a link. The text can maintain data binding, in this case with OData field. Okay, so I hope you got some idea now.
Yes, yes.
Hi Vijay. A quick question. So can we have dynamic returning parameters in the formatter? So if we are considering suppose as validation two, three different fields, like for in our table example, if the country is India and the salary is suppose 81,000 or anything less than that. So then we are passing some third parameter as the output. Or can that be used? A returning
No, that
parameter,
is,
multiple returning parameters, or a dynamic returning value?
you have to return dynamic single value here from formatter function, but that can have a concatenation of multiple values. So here in this example also, what we are trying to do, we are trying to, in case of first name, last name, what we are trying to do, we are returning, okay, let me save this. Okay, so here in this case, we are using first name, last name, but we are returning something else. We are not returning first name, last name directly. We are returning calculated value or a manipulated value here. After taking two fields, we are returning some other field value. So you can use like this. The
Yeah,
return
but
value should be, yeah.
yeah, can the returning parameter can be a third value from the same table, like first name, last name. We are validation is for validation, and then if the validation or the condition satisfies, then it can be a third value which we are returning, say salary or
But
country or something.
the third value should be returned to one of the column, right? For that column, you have to
Yeah.
maintain a formatter function. For that column, you have to attach formatter function.
Okay.
Okay, for whichever column you require, for that column, you have to maintain a formatter function with a proper screen element and its property.
Okay, no, my actually doubt is like if for this column, particular column only which we are doing, suppose full name. So in that full name, the validation parameters are something else. So then we can pass three parameters in this function and do the validation on the first one and return the third one as the value, right, in the returning parameter.
Now, can you give some requirement? Then I can get some idea.
Yeah, just like if the country is India and salary is suppose 50,000, then the full name should be considered or not,
Hmm.
something like that.
Yes, so here you can return anything. It doesn't matter. Here you can return. That means here what you do is if you want to take country also, then you can access that.
Okay.
Yeah, you can access country, but make sure that that country field is also used in data binding for that particular column which
Yeah.
you are trying to return. You can add country here, and for example, instead of directly using return statement, what you can do something like this. If, for example, country is matching with, just as an example, I'm using with India, then I want to return something like full name. Otherwise, I don't want to return, just as an example. So that is possible.
Okay.
Else, I want to return blank, for example. I don't want to give any value. So just use blank and close the statement here. So that means
Okay.
you can take a number of fields in data binding, then you can consider those fields in your formatter
Validation.
function. You can
And
access
also
those number
all
of fields in
condition.
formatter function, and then you can return whichever value you want. You can return full name or a blank value or something else. That all depends on your requirement.
Okay.
So this
And
is
all
possible. Other
conditional
fields also, please
parameters we can
remember
use, right?
all.
Condition parameters like triple that equals to when we are validating triple equals to ampersand we can use, right?
Yes, that we are going to discuss how to
Okay.
apply validations. Validations is a separate topic. We are going to apply validations on various different fields. In that scenario, you will understand how to use JavaScript operators, triple equal,
Yeah.
double equal, ampersand, straight lines, and plus, minus, hyphen, and increment operator, decrement operator, those things will come at right stage. Don't worry. In validations, we are going to discuss that. How to use double ampersand, two straight lines, and, or, etc. We are going to do that.
Okay.
But at this level, I can say you can have a number of fields in data binding so that those many fields can be referred inside formatter function. And you can use those fields in your conditions and you can return whichever value you want for that particular field.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.